IVM.
In fact, in our flagship product, we say that we'll give you your entire premium back if you walk 10,000 steps a day for 325 days in a year. And there are consumers who actually do it. The only reason why delays happen in cashless, Anupam, is because unfortunately, in a country which exports so much technology globally, the way the whole claims paperwork happens between the hospital and the insurance company is I would say still fairly archaic. Papers flowing. I was surprised when 7 years back when we started, even faxes were sent, right? So I think there's again a very serious attempt now, something called a claims health exchange is being set up, where data will flow between the hospital and the insurance company through this claims exchange seamlessly. So once that starts happening, the time for that whole kind of exchange of information, etc., will reduce.
Folks, welcome to Paisa Vaisa. I'm your Anupam Gupta, B50 on Twitter, and on today's episode, I'm talking about health insurance. After a really long time, my guest, Mayank Bathwal, CEO of Aditya Birla Health Insurance. We're going to talk about the importance of health insurance, how to choose a good policy, a right plan that's relevant to you. Mayank, welcome to Paisa Vaisa. Thank you so much for doing this for our listeners.
My pleasure, completely my pleasure, Anupam. Thank you for hosting.
Fantastic. So let's start with the top-down numbers, Mayank. Here we are in 2024. It's been like 4 years to the lockdown. What is the penetration of health insurance in India in general, and have there been any trends that you observed in these last 4 years?
Yeah, that's an important and interesting question, both, Anupam. I think one way to look at the penetration is to actually break down the Indian population and see, what is the, I would say, funding, healthcare cost funding solution for that. So out of about 45 crore people, I break them into three segments. One is what I call the bottom segment, up to probably about 55, 60 odd crores, which in many ways is a segment of people who can actually not afford health insurance because they have many other things to deal with, food and housing and etc. etc. And there the government of India came up with this largest healthcare funding scheme in the world, the Ayushman Bharat scheme, which in any way kind of brought together a whole holistic framework for all states to potentially follow. So that is covered under that. I think there, out of that 60 odd crore, today the coverage is, from what we understand, close to about 32 to 35 odd crores. Wow. There is still a potential of covering the balance because the government of India can only suggest a scheme. Each state has its own right to do that. So I think a few states have to do some more work on that to bring that population under full coverage. Then there is another 40 odd crore people, 45 you can say, yep. Which in the language of Niti Aayog is actually what is called the missing middle. Oh. That segment is technically a segment which can pay but not fully pay. So you need more affordable offerings for them. I mean, you need more, in some way, if I can use the word subsidized. Yeah. Now, whether that subsidy will come from the government in whichever form, fiscal, tax, etc., or the pricing has to be brought down to a level which they can really afford. So that segment is actually where today very small segment of that population is covered. And, I would say not even 5-10%. I mean, some of them may have got covered under what is called community schemes, etc., but broadly uncovered. They pay out of pocket completely. And then above that is the balance, about 40 odd crores, taking it to total about 144, 45, which is where today bulk of the effort of the private sector health insurance is, right? There are two kind of insurance sells. One is, what you and me buy individually, which is called retail health insurance. If we have bought for ourselves, our family, unfortunately, only about 5.5-6 crore lives are covered there, which means because of concept called family insurance. So very low penetration there. And then corporate provides health insurance, which is about, my sense is about 9-10 crores. So in totality, if you see, there is 9, 10 plus 5 and 5.5, 6, where there could be some overlap, about 15, 16, and then about 35. So about 50 odd crore is what I would feel, which is a very, very small penetration. But more importantly, the fact that only 5.5%, 6 crores of retail where you have paid on your own, that is what worries me even more. And the fact that the missing middle is virtually uncovered. So I think a huge opportunity for a product that I'm sure we'll talk about more later in the show is required by every Indian.
Wow, I mean, I like the way that you've broken them down. I'm assuming that the good part is that with the Ayushman Bharat scheme, at least a beginning has been made.
Yeah.
Remember that 10 years ago, this didn't exist.
Yeah.
So for the weakest and poorest section, at least there is an option. Of course, like you said, states have their own way to go. But let's talk about the ones that are upper in the strata or, wherever. What stops people from buying health insurance? I can understand life has its own dynamics, and we've covered life on this show before. We had someone from Aditya Birla Life also on our show some time ago. But what's happening out here? I'm just trying to understand. Are there any myths? And if you could help us debunk them, I just don't understand that.
Interesting. Like we, as a player in this category, this is something that we grapple with every day, Anupam. And, I think, interestingly, when we do research, and recently we're doing research for the industry as well, one of the things that comes up, and I've heard about this several times in my conversation with prospective customers, and even when in friends, colleagues, and family, when we talk about it, right? As Indians, we have this whole notion of karma, right? There are good deeds will never allow anything wrong to happen to us. If at all something happens, if I may say, with on the lighter side, will happen to people whom we don't know, the neighbors, but nothing to us. So I think we just don't take this that something wrong can happen. But at the same time, there's also this whole notion that if I put some money into a product or an offering, I must get back something immediately.
And even for health insurance, thinking.
So I think this whole culture
Crazy.
of risk, right, Anupam, is missing in India, which is also reflected in the purchase of pure term in life, right? People buy more savings products. So I think it's same thing here, because people buy motor insurance as risk because they are mandated. They can be, if they don't have, they can be caught. But here, we feel that why should I kind of buy, because I'm not going to I pay $10,000. I actually pity people when they pay for 3 years and they say, hey, I haven't got anything for 3 years. I've paid 40,000 rupees. I think I should, which is the time actually they should pay the next one, right? Continue. So I think that's there. That's on one side. But I think on the other side, there's this whole thing of people, somehow there's this impression that I pay, but do I get claims when I need it? There's definitely this perception for the industry to deal with, right? That do I get claims on time? Do I get the full claim? So therefore, should I really pay or not pay? And as an industry, we have to deal with that whole issue. Again, something I'm sure we'll talk more in. So we have to address this real issue also. We can't kind of take that away.
So it's been 25 years plus that the private health and life insurance industry has come up and has been around, and they've done some great work, and the products have also evolved, right? So sitting here in 2024, can you talk about some innovative products that probably didn't exist a long time ago, and how are they different from, and why people should be actually considering them?
I think if you look at health insurance today, lots of innovation has happened over the last, I would say in particular last 16, 17 years, after a whole category of new players was created, which is called standalone health insurance, which is monoline health insurance players. Because these players, they're जिसको बोलते हैं, bread and butter, roti, kapda, makan, sab isi pe. This is our only product where we can make money. So therefore, we have to really do whatever we can to make a viable business. So I think the fact that there are concept of family floaters, there are concepts of claim bonus, there are concepts of cashless, which is really increased because of the network size. I can talk about my company, which we started 8 years back. And our whole thesis is that actually insurance is not so much about, and also given the Indian, this whole thesis of risk is actually, when I talk to a consumer, they don't look at something bad happening, right? So, but they want good health. So why can't we actually look at the whole alignment of interest of good health of the consumer and create something which actually drives consumers towards better health? So for example, our product offers 100% health return. which means 100% of premium is back for good health behavior.
Nice.
So what this means, so the notion is this, that talk health first and then insurance. So I think that's a innovation to my mind. Many kind of healthcare costs are getting covered today, which were not Ayush, mental health, by different players. Outpatient expenses, we have started making a start. So I think there's more than enough for consumers to look at.
Let's say that, another point of stating an obvious thing, why is health insurance important? We spoke about why people don't have it, but why is it important? Let's say that there's a listener out there who's listening to you and us, you and me right now, and he does not have health insurance. So what would be your pitch to him?
See, very simple. A health event unfortunately doesn't come with announcement, right? We saw in COVID. I talk to so many people who say, I'm in good health condition. Why should I buy insurance, right? Did COVID teach us something? I'm not saying that we'll have COVIDs again and again. But, I think different forms of such health event can happen. An accident can happen, unfortunately, to any one of us, right? I think the important thing is this, that when a healthcare event happens, all of us want the best treatment. I remember, if I can quickly share a story.
Please.
We have a house help, and you can imagine the earning that she must be having. She comes one day and says her mother-in-law is not well, but she will not take her to a government hospital. She'll not go to Cooper's, but she'll go take it to a private hospital. And a private hospital, it costs her 2 lakh rupees for that cost. And the kind of debt that she had to take means that ability to repay that over a period of time. So, imagine what happens, right? Because we do not want to compromise on the quality of health intervention. And I think that's what it's important, that if you want the best quality intervention, and the cost of healthcare is only growing, it's 10 to 12% inflation. With more and more corporatization, the cost is only increasing. With better quality healthcare, the cost is increasing. So I'll really urge, it's not a big cost. It's not a big cost at all.
Especially when you're young.
15,000 rupees, in the initial period, and of course it goes up. You spend more than that money eating popcorn in a cinema theater, guys. So please.
Mayank, let's get into it. How does one choose a health insurance policy that's relevant? I mean, what are I know that you need to have a different policy for a different person. There could be underlying, there could be whole lot of things. But in general, how should one? We left the previous part of this episode making the case for a health insurance. Now, I'm assuming that a listener, his or her next question is, help me choose a good policy. How would I do that?
Yeah, I think what I would suggest to a listener is this. To whoever is the person selling or proposing the proposition, ask him to suggest the best possible product, which means the most comprehensive product, where there are least limitations in the benefits. For different reasons, the products today have some restrictions like waiting periods, in some case some exclusions. Ask them to show you products with the least of those restrictions, no limits, no non-payable expenses, etc. Look at the price for that, right? And of course, the coverage should always be for the family. Healthcare is a family subject. It's not an individual thing. I mean, there's no reason, unlike life, that you buy insurance on yourself and not on your spouse or children, etc. Right? It can happen to anyone. Look at the price. Then look at your affordability. If for any reason you feel that that's not an affordable price, then start looking at, what can be reduced or changed in that to kind of create, to reach to a level where you think now it is okay. For example, if you feel, this is maybe 20, 30, 40% more than what I can pay, then, there are products which have some elements of, let's say, deductible.
Sure.
I'm able to pay in the first 40, 50,000 that I can pay from my pocket, maybe, and not beyond that. Or there are products which have some copay, or for some pre-existing condition you can have some waiting period. And so there are different ways to kind of then look at reducing that price. But do at least first understand what's the most comprehensive, and then decide,
nice,
okay, that I can now afford this price, I'll pay this.
Yeah, and sit down with someone who understands this, who can walk you through this. Okay, you've got something for chronic conditions. I'm quite interested by this. What exactly is this product? Help us with some Some examples maybe?
Yeah, see, Anupam, what happens is that today, the way the health insurance products work is that if you have a pre-existing condition, for obvious reason, there's a waiting period put for that. Let's say I have diabetes. If I go and buy a product, the insurer will tell me because you have diabetes, there's a likelihood that there could be an event, sooner than...
Or hypertension, whatever, yeah.
Whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just taking diabetes. It can happen immediately. So I will give a waiting period for 3 years or 4 years. There are different products. And after that, any cost for that will be covered. But, suppose someone says, I want coverage from today. So then there are products like we have brought in products which can offer from today. But for chronic lifestyle products, like in India is a diabetes capital of the world. India,
And hypertension, yeah.
Hypertension capital of the world.
Those
Diabetes...
are the top two.
and in diabetes in particular, because of the genetic issue with South Asian genes as well, plus our lifestyle, our fooding habits, etc., all of those contribute. Irrespective of whether I go to the hospital or not, whether that event will happen, I have to go to a doctor. I have to get some tests done. I must buy my medicines. So our approach, given what I said earlier about this whole health first, how can we play a role of partnering consumers for good health? For such conditions, we say we want to offer you a comprehensive product, but with concepts of health coach who will partner your doctor to help you live and manage your condition. Because I can be a diabetic, but if I manage my diabetes, I can live a very normal, healthy life.
Yeah.
The problem is that people don't, do that often.
But there's ample proof to show that.
Yeah,
you can live with it, actually like a very normal life.
Yeah.
Please go on, yeah.
So that's what, and so we have this concept of, we'll reward you for good health.
Yeah.
And so there's a notion of, you do a test, you understand what your condition is, and if you, walk 10,000 steps a day.
That's actually going to be my next question. So let's just go into it. Talk to us about the specific plan that you just, let's just start with it in detail. Let's say that I've just heard that you have such a plan for diabetes. Walk us through it.
Yeah, so it's both for diabetes and for regular patients. International research has shown that if you walk regularly, for a normal person, you don't need to necessarily go to a gym or do all these functional training, etc., etc. Brisk walking is a good thing to do every day, and so we in our product propose that if you walk 10,000 steps a day, for at least a certain minimum number of days, and you get your health checkups, etc., done, so that you know what your condition is, and if you're moving towards improving that, then we'll reward you for that good health behavior. So in fact, in our flagship product, we say that we'll give you your entire premium back if you walk 10,000 steps a day for 325 days in a year. And there are consumers who actually do it.
Who tracks that? I mean, can't you game that? Is it some mentality that we
How long will you do that? Our people told us that, right? You can walk, or you can go to a gym, or you can exercise. There are many ways. Walking is just one.
Obviously, yeah.
It's about physical activity. So some people told us, maybe they'll put it on their dog, and you say, our thing is they'll feel ashamed after 5 days that I shouldn't do this. They'll start walking with the dog.
Yeah, and what are you gaining by doing that?
What are you gaining?
You'll just
getting
get
some
your
money
premium
back.
Is your health more important?
We realized that actually we thought about that in the beginning. People told us, but we don't find that kind of fraud happening with our.
Nice.
We have a large consumer base. People don't do that. For fun they might do it for a day or two.
They get serious then eventually.
And what, Anupam, what really excites us is this. If I can share a story. We have a customer in Indore, a lady. I met her at Indore, and she said, "Mayank, I'm thin, but I didn't used to feel healthy. I've now started walking regularly. I feel healthy, but that's not it. Mayank, I actually feel happy.
Wow.
But that's not it. My husband is also your customer, so I used to struggle to find time with my husband." Normally during the day we'll walk 6,000-7,000 steps. To complete that 10,000 after dinner, we walk those 3,000 steps together, and we walk together.
10,000 is a big number.
Yeah, we walk together, and we have built. I find my relationship better than anything ever. So I'm saying, how do you create these impacts in the life of your consumers? As a health insurance company, that's what we want, right? Happier, healthier consumers.
So let me get this right. So it's an app on your phone, and that tracks the entire thing.
So yes.
If you're able to do 10,000 steps for 3 months or whatever is the period.
You decide.
Yeah.
You decide that I want to. So it's every. So if you have to walk a minimum of, 10,000 steps a day for at least 4 days in a month, so you
Sure.
start getting
Sure.
3, 4,
Sure.
5, 6%. You can go up to 30%, and then the more you walk, the more you get.
Yeah.
So the idea is you want to be walking in this month, do that. Next month you want to go gymming. We can track your gymming visits. You want to do exercise, we can track your calories burn, whatever.
Very interesting here. Very interesting. So, folks, you might want to just check that out. I guess a healthy lifestyle is actually the best health insurance. I think someone had said that, I think.
Nothing better than that.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get two big issues that are there, or other two aspects that are there to health insurance that I think, I don't know if they're as well understood by a lot of the people who already have health insurance. Cashless and claims. So, let's start with cashless. Okay. Where are we now in the whole hospital system, insurance system, TPAs, etc.? How prevalent is cashless? How convenient is cashless? I think 5 or 10 years ago, it was not as smooth. For the customer, it was still a lot of friction. And the thing about cashless is you need it at a very vulnerable point. Like you're sitting in a hospital, you're not in the right frame of mind. Nobody in a hospital is ever going to be in the right frame of mind. Anybody who's been to one, either for himself or for his parents, knows how painful billing is, right? And cashless is actually a boon. You can just walk in, get treated, walk out. So how are we doing on cashless, and any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's an very important question. First, let me, say that yes, I think there's an opportunity for industry to create more kind of a better perception for consumers in the overall claims experience, right? If you look at cashless, I think that's the best thing for the consumer, right? If you go to the hospital, get treated, walk out, the insurance company takes care of it. So I think as an industry, we are about 60 to 70% of cashless. Balance is what is called reimbursement. Cashless typically happens on the network. There's a strong kind of nudge by our current regulator, Chairman Mr. Devashish Panda, that we should move towards 100% cashless, and it makes sense for the industry as well to do that. So, for example, some of us, including ourselves, we have launched something called a cashless anywhere. You walk into any hospital anywhere in the country. If you give us 48 hours notice in advance in case of planned treatment, or within 48 hours of getting into the hospital, inform us in case of emergency treatment, we will make serious attempt with that hospital to give you a cashless experience, unless that hospital for some reason doesn't want to do
Correct.
that. There are cases where that happens. Otherwise, we'll quickly do an agreement with them. See, consumers complain around cashless or claims in general are three complaints they have. One, they say you have not given my claim. You've denied. I call it 3 Ds. You've denied my claim. You have deducted amount from my claim, or you have delayed the claim. In the deduction, I can tell you that, in the denied, I can tell you that there'll be no denial if there has been full disclosure, and the claim in cashless in particular, the claim just flows through. There's no deduction at all. Denial at all. In case of deductions do happen for some reasons. For example, in sometimes, as I said, there are non-medical expenses or some room limits, etc. And which is why when you ask what's the recommendation, I say start with the best and then see what you're comfortable with if you want to kind of bring down the cost. If you buy the comprehensive products, there's no deduction. If you walk into a hospital, cashless, no deduction, no denial, you'll get. And in fact, even in delays, the only reason why delays happen in cashless, Anupam, is because unfortunately, in a country which exports so much technology globally, the way the whole claims paperwork happens between the hospital and the insurance company is, I would say, still fairly archaic. Paper is flowing. I was surprised when 7 years back when we started, even faxes were sent, right? So I think there's again a very serious attempt now, something called a claims health exchange is being set up, where data will flow between the hospital and the insurance company through this claims exchange seamlessly. So once that starts happening, the time for that whole kind of exchange of information, etc., will reduce. And over a period of time, digital data starts flowing in. It can be humanless, paperless experience for the consumer.
Hopefully should happen soon. Yeah. So coming back to claims, delayed, denied, deducted are the three things. So what's your message to our listeners, that how should they ensure either their paperwork is done or when they're entering the hospital or when they're going out. What are the few things that they should have in mind when they are going through this process so that the friction is reduced and they can get through the cashless in the easiest way possible? I mean, it's a massive system out there, and at times it is bound to falter. Okay, and I think there's a patient, there's a hospital, and then there's a third party, the TPA, who does all of this. So there are a lot of moving parts. We on the patient side can only control what we do. What's your advice there?
Yeah, firstly, the starting point is, I hope that you have a comprehensive product, not with exclusions and limitations and waiting periods and all. Then automatically, if you have made all disclosures at the time of the policy, there's no reason why there will be any. We find many cases where there are non-disclosures of some conditions, so investigation it comes out and therefore issues. I would strongly urge customers that if it's a planned treatment, reach out to your insurance company and tell them that we are planning to go to this hospital. I think a lot of pre-work can be done by the insurance company in dealing with that hospital. Most of the insurance companies will be keen to do that because they want to provide that experience. And if in case of no non-disclosure, good product, cashless experience, I can promise the customers that their experience will be very good. It's only when these challenges happen that the last minute the insurance company comes to know, and therefore it takes time for the paper to flow through, or there are non-disclosures at times, which seems kind of, especially in case of early claims, etc., that sometimes these inconveniences do get created. And I do acknowledge that at times customers do get inconvenience. If I share, in our case, the claims settlement ratio is 96%. And let me also give you another data, Anupam. They say that about 25% of claims paid by amount is actually what is called fraud, waste, or abuse.
Wow.
Now, if that is the fraud, waste, or abuse, what is expected of the insurance company? Should we just pay without checking? Then the premium will go up.
Oh my.
So it is. And by the way, we can't even detect that full 25%. We can probably detect 12 to 15%. There are still 10 odd percent which gets paid out because sometimes it's difficult for us to kind of say that, hey, this is not payable because it's abuse, excess charging, excess days kept in the hospital, etc., etc. So I think it is our responsibility also to not allow non-payable claims because it will impact the right customers, right?
Yeah.
In that process, sometimes if we do investigation, some genuine cases also gets delayed. So one or two cases, mistakes can also happen.
Yeah.
But, I can tell you on behalf of the entire industry, not just on behalf of Aditya Health Insurance, that we are here to, pay. We represent strong brands, right? We are not here to kind of make money by not paying claims. Please, during COVID, we paid 30,000 crores of claims as an industry.
Wow.
It is more than 5 years of entire profit of the industry, including GI, right? Many countries, COVID claims were not paid. So it's not that we don't want to, it's just that there are some real issues that we deal with, and the healthcare industry is very large to deal with them, and that's why we have requested the government to put a health regulator now.
Yeah. What are fraud and abuses? What are the various types and forms that it takes? I assume that this is also one of the reasons why hospitals get blacklisted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
So fraud, waste, and abuse, typically fall in these categories. So one is fraud, where there is just that the fraud, the policy was bought just to get the claim, right?
Wow.
There are parts of the country where policies are sold. Buy a 20,000 rupee policy, I'll get you 1 lakh rupee paid. I don't want to name the location, but there are parts where policies are bought on virtually dead people's life, thing, right? And if I tell you, I don't know to narrate how it happens. It's like
morbid,
gruesome, right?
Yeah,
it's morbid, right?
Yeah.
And there are parts where real kind of schemes are run to kind of. So frauds can be done by a group of distributors. In many cases, there is a nexus between many moving parts.
Entire network that operates.
Operates. So that's a big part. About 12-15% falls in that category.
Yeah.
And then there is what is called waste and abuse. I don't want to let's not get too technical.
Sure.
Basically, what it means is overcharging by the hospital. I'm sure you've heard enough of
course,
that.
inflation
Because
of
you have
bills,
insurance, you'll be charged more, right? If you come to know, and I'm not saying all hospitals do that. Hospitals are genuine, they do a good job, they do a great job. I must respect them, but there are parts of the healthcare ecosystem which do that, and this is overcharging just because have lower occupancy. The sum assured is there. Keep the customer for more days than what is required, and stuff like that. So overcharging, which is abuse of the insurance. So between these two, there's this unpayable amount which should be reduced.
Yeah, I'm hoping that with technology, going forward, this should get. 25% is a big number. Even if it is 10 or 12%, it's a big number. But hopefully, it should come down. Okay, Mayank, we're just about done with the episode. Where do you see the industry, specifically I'm talking about the products, for me as a consumer, evolving, or what's exciting for me to look forward to going forward?
Yeah, I think it's an important question, Anupam, because see, today the insurance products primarily cater to what is called IPD, which is inpatient expenses. But you and me, with our family, we spend a lot of money outside, right? Doctor, test. When we don't need to go to the hospital, flu, doctor ke paas gaye,
That's not covered.
That's not covered, right?
Yeah.
What is called OPD, outpatient expenses. Outpatient expenses are broadly about 55% of healthcare cost. And I think it's important to bring that in for two reasons. One is that, of course, it covers the cost of the consumers, but also because that helps the insurance companies get a lot of data based on which they understand the risk profile of the consumers for intervention to reduce the possibility of a IPD event as well. And I think the challenges there have been that because, unlike hospital where they're large but still, a certain number, in outpatient there can be like as many doctors, as many testing facilities, as many medicine shops. So how do you create a network for that? But the good thing is now there are a lot of these health tech players who are building these networks, technology driven. And therefore, and the other related point of that was potential abuse in case of OPD benefit. So I think I see that opportunity. I'm really excited with that, we've started experimenting with some play. I think which will then create a comprehensive health insurance product for consumers covering all healthcare costs. All, I would say, mature markets do have full. I think that's one area. And the second one is today, if a family gets, let's say, someone has a cancer, let's say the earning member, there's a cost of that treatment, but because of that, there is potential financial impact that they can't earn their living. So to cover some of that, there's a product called fixed benefit product where there's lump sum amount paid, which typically takes care of other financial stress cost for such incidents. I think there's opportunity for Indian consumers to start looking at that as well.
Is that part of critical illness? Or
it is critical illness, which covers many conditions.
What about data sharing? Where are we on that? Because for something that's as critical and as important as health, when are we going to be at an experience where someone can just walk into a hospital, God forbid he shouldn't, but if he or she does, the data is already there with the hospital, and let's say that he's someone who was in Bombay, shifted to Delhi, because right now, it's like in case of emergencies, you just have to take everything with you, doctor's prescription, past history, A, B, C, X, Y, Z, and kuch chhoot gaya to chhoot gaya fir. If there is something that's there already on a database and that's transferable all across the system, it just makes my life and hopefully the doctor's life. Come on, the doctor himself is the one who's treating, and if he gets everything in a standardized form, or am I talking of some, wishful thinking that can never happen?
2 years back, we could have said wishful thinking, but firstly, you're absolutely right, Anupam. There are two reasons, right? How, if you try and think about it, would you have your medical records, let's say, of 10 years back?
I don't for sure, and I have a few underlying conditions.
Because even if we keep our files, these are all physical files, we'll probably have last 5-6 years.
The ink will dry out.
At best, right?
Of course, yeah.
Whereas the doctor's diagnosis becomes much better if they have a history of data, right?
ECG reports, they fade away.
Correct. So today there's this whole thing of Ayushman Bharat Digital Health Mission the government has announced, where I will urge all of us to take register for what is called Abha ID, which is a health ID for each one of us, like a Aadhaar ID. The whole idea, and I do hope that it takes execution speed, but the whole idea there is to digitize all your health data and put that in a repository where the ownership will lie with the consumer. And the idea is that I, as a patient, if I have that digitized data, I go to a doctor, I give consent to share that data for, let's say, next 30 minutes. The doctor sees that. After that, the right goes. Doctor cannot see. And stuff like that. So exactly what you just said. It will take some effort to build that, but at least the thinking process is already there. All of us, including us individuals, will have to kind of take lead in participating in this. Yes, there will be some fear that what
Privacy
can happen to my
all,
data, privacy. The good thing is the data privacy law is coming. Anyone doing something wishy-washy with that, there's a huge penalty. So
no. I mean, on this show itself, we've spoken about the account aggregator network.
Yes.
If we can get all our financial lives online and I control the data, nobody else does, and I give access. Health, though, I think is a little bit more important than
absolutely,
that. I mean,
absolutely, Anupam. Completely agree.
I've had this conversation with so many people. Obviously for a certain class of people, the healthcare experience in India is probably the best that you can get. I mean, people who come from abroad, NRIs or whatever, when they come, they are absolutely amazed, because when they deal with the health situation in their countries, it's a very different process. So I'm just thinking that, if we can get this done, we might just stand out. What do you think? Do you think it's possible?
No, it is. I think it will take some time. I just wish that, like many other initiatives that, given the top-down pressure, from the government, have really become a reality, I don't see why this cannot. The only problem here is that the larger healthcare ecosystem, how will they adopt technology at a pace and which is affordable for them? So I think if government supports that, I think it can. But it's an imperative in my view.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a discussion which which I wish I could have. I wish I had more time, because what can be more important in health? And especially for the poorest, the weakest people, for middle and upper class people, they've still that health issues kind of sorted. What used to happen with our parents in wo zaman mein jo hota tha, wo abhi thankfully for some people at least we are lucky enough to have reached where it doesn't. But there's a massive layer out there that still doesn't get access to quality healthcare. Maybe they will. Let's.
Yeah, but if I can give one message to you,
please,
all the listeners, it's
please.
I always believe that if there's one asset that we own where we have more control than anything else, I wouldn't say full, but more control, is our health. Right? We can do few more things to take care of our health and control that than anything else. And I think they say that you can live your best version if you're your healthiest version. So I think my only urge will be, please don't postpone it. Like, we are sitting, we are on 5th January, right? It's a 7th January syndrome where the most resolutions, get, forgotten by 7th January. And one of the biggest one is, I'll be healthier, I'll lose weight, I'll start gymming, I'll start. So if you have taken that, please don't allow 7th January to break your resolution, is what my request will be.
And this time around, the health insurance industry has products that will encourage you.
Exactly.
If you can walk 10,000 steps and maintain it, and if you get your premium back, lovely.
Look at our Active One product.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, man, we are done with the bulk of the show. Standard question to all our guests: what book are you reading, or anything that you're watching, anything that you could and would recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, so I just read this book by Arthur Brooks and Oprah Winfrey, a book called "Build the Life You Want."
That's a new book.
It's a new book.
It's a relatively, and look at the authors. My God, Arthur Brooks and Oprah.
Yeah,
I had heard about it, but
I did get an opportunity to meet Arthur Brooks, at Harvard recently, and I read this book. Wonderful book. It's about happiness and the whole concept of happiness. How happiness is not a destination, but it's a direction. But I would urge, I really loved the book. In fact, I've been gifting that book to.
Nice.
I should have brought that for you today.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
But that's one, and the other one, I've deep interest in the subject of health and longevity. Is what I'm reading currently, a book called Outlive.
Peter Attia.
By Peter Attia. It's wonderful, and what's happening in the medical science and the whole notion of longevity and the concept of aging, how aging can be reversed, etc. beautiful. If anyone has any interest in the concept of
Nice.
health, please do read
Yeah,
that.
Build Your Life, and of course Outlive, which has, I think we've had a few guests who have recommended that book. So, and that is a wrap on this episode of Paisa Vaisa. My guest, Mayank Bathwal, CEO of Aditya Birla Health Insurance. Mayank, thank you so much for doing this for our listeners, and come back, maybe after a few months, and hopefully there's a lot of progress that's happened in the health industry, the health insurance industry, and maybe you've got some more data and more interesting stories to share with us. Thank you so much for doing this for our listeners.
Pleasure. Whenever you call me next, I'll be there.
IVM.